Yo, what's going on, everybody? In today's video, I'm going to be bringing to you a tier list for both positional players and pitchers, both starters and relievers. So we're just doing a tier list for all categories of Diamond Dynasty, who I think is the best, and whatnot, okay? But before we get into it, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Turn those notifications on, and in the comment section below, let me know if you agree with my tier list, if you disagree, if I missed out on anybody that you thought should be in the tier list, just let me know. This is all obviously opinion based, so it's based off experiences with the player, attributes obviously factor in and whatnot, okay? So again, let me know in the comment section if you agree with it or not, and we can have a discussion about it. All right, lastly, make sure you follow me on Twitch, Twitter, and TikTok. All three links will be in the description below, so give me a follow on three platforms. I would highly appreciate if you did. And also make sure you go check out my shorts channel on YouTube, pitching_rebel shorts. Go check it out. It is completely free, okay? All right, let's get into this tier list. All right, so we're going to start off in this tier list with the catchers. We based it off the tier maker and did S, A, B, C, and D tiers. As you can see, I don't have that many catchers on the screen or in this tier list. These are just the catchers that I would maybe, that I considered viable. I know there's a lot more catchers, but I wasn't going to go through all of them. I'm just going to go through the ones that are viable for all the tiers, okay? None of these tiers include created players. We obviously know that the created player can play any position at S tier, so we're not even going to include that. We're just including guys that can either are primary catchers or that can play catcher, okay? For the S tier and the catchers, I'm going to go with Joe Mauer and Jimmy Fox. Those are the two guys that can play catcher that I think are the best and that I think are S tiers. They're very, very similar, except obviously Joe Mauer has way better defense. But when it comes to the hitting, they're pretty much the same, except the other way around. Obviously Jimmy's the right-handed hitter that has better splits against lefties, and then Joe Mauer is the left-handed hitter with better splits against righties. Those are the two S tier guys for the catcher. The A tier, I'm going to go with Taylor Ward, Jorge Posada, Joey Bart, and Henry Davis. These are not in any order. They're just part of the tier. But those are the guys that crack my A just below the S tier. Posada, obviously the switch hitter. Taylor Ward has good contact numbers. The only thing that he's lacking is that power against lefties, but overall is a very good hitter and has good speed for a catcher, obviously, since he's an outfielder. Joey Bart, he's got good hitting numbers, and so does Henry Davis. Both of them are very good hitting, and they both have very good defense, at least. The B tier is going to be MJ Melendez, the future stars that just came out. Shea, I don't know how to say his last name, but Shea, the one future stars for the A's. Luis Camposano, and then Corey Lee. Those are my B tier. And then the C tier, the lowest tier for me, I could use them as D tier, but we'll just say at C tier is going to be the postseason Johnny Bench, the Tops now Trevino, Pudges, Takashi Card, and then Dalton Varsho. Those are my tiers. For S through C for the catchers. So the top two guys, again, of course, as you see it, it's Joe Mauer and Jimmy Fox. I'm going to give the slight edge to Jimmy Fox just because the fact that Randy Johnson is the best pitcher in the game and it's not even close. I'm going to give the edge to Jimmy Fox. He's a right-handed hitter who has 125 contact versus lefties and 85 power off rip. So I'm going to give him the slight edge, even though Joe does have that better defense and whatnot. So now we'll just jump over to the first baseman. Again, these are all guys that can play first base. There's going to be quite a bit of them. Okay, so S tier for first base. It's pretty clear cut. George Brett, Babe Ruth, and Frank Thomas, not in any order, but obviously if we're going to have to go ranking number one, it'd be George Brett, not as a primary first baseman, but the guy that can play first. That's probably going to stay in the lineup, over Frank. When other guys come out, somebody maybe just as good as Brett or almost as good as Brett that could play first, but it's going to be a while before that happens anyway. So Brett and Thomas, I can foresee them in the lineup till at least probably middle of July, even end of July. For sure, Brett's going to be longer than that. And then Thomas will probably be around that time, maybe even longer, depending on when the 99s come out. Next, we'll jump over the A tier. A tier, we're going to go with Delgado, Raffy Scoops, Jimmy Fox, Joe Mauer, David Ortiz, and then the Rookie of the Year, Albert Pujols. All those guys can play first base, and I consider them all A tier. That's not in any order again. B tier, we're gonna go ahead and jump over to the B tier. We're gonna go with Jared Walsh, the Topps Now collection card. Pete Alonso, second half Jim Edmonds, Eduardo Escobar, Nick Prado, and Michael Taglaya. That's the B tier for me. You got 2 switch hitters in Taglaya and Escobar, and then you got 3 left-handed hitters and 1 right-handed hitter. All those guys have, you know, about, I wouldn't say the same, but pretty close attributes hitting-wise, and they all have nice swings. Jared Walsh has nice quirks, actually, like live series quirks, and so does Pete Alonso, and so does Eddie Escobar. The other 3 guys don't have any quirks, so that's also what puts them up there into the B tier for sure. C tier, we got Michael Young, Paul Molitor, Anthony Rizzo, and then Jason Giambi. And the reason being, Michael Young just doesn't have that power that I would want at first base. He has good contact numbers, but not that power. He also doesn't have for me, he could have cracked the B tier for first, like somebody could play first, but doesn't have that power, and I don't like his swing. So that's just a, you know, personal opinion on my end. You may think he's higher on the list, and that's fine. Again, you know, we can discuss this in the comment section, okay? How you feel about my tier list. And then D tier, Don Mattingly, and then Prince Fielder. They just obviously don't make the cut, but had to throw them in there because they are first baseman and whatnot. So that is my first base tier list. Again, S tier, as you see at the top, it's Brett, Babe Ruth, and Frank Thomas. They're like way above the A tier in my opinion. All right. So now that we're done discussing the first baseman, we're gonna jump into the third baseman now. Okay, so now we got the third baseman again. Guys that can play third base. S tier, George Brett leads the pack by far. You got Raffy Scoops, Brett Beatty, and then Albert Pujols, the Rookie of the Year. Now, third base is a little bit weaker than first base, so that's why we have those guys in the S tier. And the reason why I actually threw Brett Beatty in there is because not only is he a great budget card, but he does have nice attributes. But the thing that I loved about Beatty when I did use him is he has a really, really nice swing. Like, really, really damn nice. So that also gives him that edge. The rest of the guys, you know their attributes. Pujols is very damn good, even to this point in the year. And he was out day 1. Raffy Devers, obviously really damn good. And then George Brett, just above and beyond everybody else. A tier, we're going to have Jimmy Fox, Austin Martin, the Future Stars, Eduardo Escobar, and we're going to have Oswaldo Peraza. My goodness, I cannot speak. Okay, Oswaldo Peraza. Those are my A tier. These guys, you know, Peraza he's almost a 5-tool player. Not quite there, but he's almost there. Technically, yeah, you can consider him a 5-tool player at this point of the year, but I wouldn't call him a 5-tool player. Just because the power is not completely there, though, for him to be a 5-tool player. Eddie Escobar, again, a very nice third baseman, Topps Now card, switch hitter, has very, very balanced attributes, and is a little bit better against lefties, which, again, we love to see because of Randy Johnson. Austin Martin, a guy that has very, very high contact. The power is just not there. Wish he had if he had more power, he would probably be pushed into the A tier. No joke. And then Jimmy Fox, of course. We love Jimmy Fox. Could be a borderline S tier, but we'll just leave him in the A tier. He is the highest on my list as the best A tier guy. So for the B tier, we went with Ernie Banks, Jose Ramirez live series card, Michael Young, Justin Foscue, Khalil Watson, Orelvis Martinez, Leovel Peguero, Bryson Stott, and Gunnar Henderson. And then the C tier, we went Troy Gloss, Mike Schmidt, Eddie Matthews, Mason Wynn, and Vinny Castilla. I could have put a couple in the D list, but I don't really like go that far. You already get the point, in my opinion. But with that being said, though, B tier, some guys there could possibly crack the A tier, like Ernie Banks or Michael Young. But Ernie Banks, that contact versus righties at this point of the year is pretty damn low. Again, Michael Young, we discussed about why I don't like him too much and wouldn't put him into A tier. The power and the swing I don't really like. Bryson Stott is another guy I could have thrown in there in the A tier. However, his power is a little bit too low. His power is fine against righties. Against lefties, a little bit too low for my liking for a third baseman. And then the other guys, they got some power. Like Foscue has some nice power. Unfortunately, he just does not have the contact. Watson has speed. He has it pretty much all except Power's kind of low too. Gunnar Henderson has nice power. If the contact was a little bit higher for Gunnar, he'd definitely crack that A tier. He's right there to crack it, but needed more contact. Same thing with Martinez. But yeah, that's the tier list for third baseman. So now we're gonna go ahead and jump over to middle infielders. I didn't label it second base or shortstop. It's just straight up middle infielders. Reason why we didn't label it second base or shortstop, because a lot of guys can play short, can also play second base. So I didn't think there was really a reason to. I'd rather just all bunch them up. So the S tier, we're gonna have Ketel Marte, Chase Utley, Mookie Betts, and Soriano. Out of those 4 guys, the only guy that can play shortstop is Ketel Marte. He's a primary center fielder, but I prefer him in the middle infield. That's where I think that's where I think suits him the best. That being said, the other 3 guys can play second base. And they're all S tier in my opinion. Chase Utley still, even though he's not in my lineup anymore, he's still really damn good. Left-handed bat, has over 100 contact versus both. Very, mid-90s power, diamond defense, pretty good speed. Mookie Betts, same thing. Another guy with high contact, a little bit lower power against righties, but good contact against lefties. Good defense, good speed. So, and then Soriano, he just came out part of Takashi pack as a rare round, and we like Soriano as well. 5-tool player in my opinion. Soriano's a 5-tool player. He got that contact, the power, and defense and speed. So he's definitely a 5-tool player. Probably the best out of the bunch there. But personal preference, biased opinion, Ketel Marte is my favorite out of those guys, even though you can argue that Alfonso Soriano is the best. Now A tier, Austin Martin also cracks this one. Carlos Correa, Ernie Banks, Eddie Escobar, Fernando Tatis Jr. Live Series, Jorge Polanco's milestone card, and then Peraza's Future Stars card. Then B tier, we got Jose Altuve, Khalil Watson, Peguero, Brujan, Simeon, Aurelvis Martinez, Michael Young again, Justin Foscue again, Brady House, Gunnar Henderson. C tier, we're going to have Jimmy Rollins, second half card, milestone Brock Hope, Mason Wynn. You saw him in the third base one as well. Joe Morgan, Takashi card, Ryan Sandberg, second half. And then I just had to throw this guy in there in the D tier because he just doesn't really serve a purpose. Besides a really cool card and really cool card art is Ozzie Smith, just too weak at the plate. Wish he had more power and whatnot, because he could be a fun card to use as a very good defender with great speed and as a switch hitter. Now, the A tier, we went with those guys because those guys have, the hitting attributes and the fielding attributes. Except, obviously, Fernando Tatis doesn't have the fielding attributes to be considered elite at shortstop or second base, but he has the hitting. One of the best power numbers, has a great swing, good quirks as well. And then, obviously, the B tier, again, we have some familiar faces. We already know why they're there. Justin Foscue, I could really put him into that's one guy. Foscue and Michael Young could actually move up into the A tier. If not, they're borderline just because of middle infield is still, not the best. But now looking at it, I'd probably move Foscue and Michael Young into the A tier. I should probably have done that. But obviously the biasness against Michael Young said I don't like the swing, so that's why. Even Gunnar Henderson could probably go into the A tier. But I'm really picky with my guys. So I'm going to stick with my list. You could consider those guys to go into the A tier, but I'm going to stick with my list of where it's at. All right, now that we've talked about everybody in the infield, we're going to jump over to outfielders. And outfielders, again, we grouped them all into one. We got center fielders, right fielders, left fielder, everybody here, because if you can play center field, you pretty much got secondary at left field and right field. And if you have left field primary, you're going to have a secondary at least in right field, and then possibly center field. So S tier is going to have Babe Ruth, Nick Castellanos, Roberto Clemente, Mike Trout, and Alfonso Soriano. A lot of you guys are probably like, why is Nick Castellanos in there? This is completely biased, probably, because I absolutely love Castellanos. He's a staple in my lineup. Love his damn swing. Has amazing attributes hitting-wise. Can get over 100 in everything hitting-wise. especially, and then against lefties, he's 125 off rip. Again, you want those guys that can hit lefties in your lineup because of Randy Johnson. Make it tougher on him, to be tough on you, right? And then having these guys that have max contact and max power against that side, it always makes it tougher on that pitcher because of the PCI size and whatnot. With that being said, obviously, his defense is a little bit of a question mark out in the outfield. However, he can get to, silver defense, at least in right field at parallel 4, but, the speed's not great, the arm's not great. So, a lot of you are probably going to be like, I'm not, I don't agree with that S tier, but that, again, Nick Castellanos, I just love him so much. Swings amazing. He's a staple in my lineup and whatnot. The other ones are pretty self-explanatory, I would feel like. Roberto Clemente, even though he's not in my lineup, he's got that max contact versus both. Got good power. Not the best power, but good enough power. And diamond defense out in right field, or diamond defense anywhere you play him in the outfield. Cannon for an arm. Okay speed, not the greatest, but okay. Got that great reaction. So obviously S tier. Babe Ruth, again, another guy is shaky in the outfield. However, the bat just sticks out so much. Has one of the best hitting attributes right now in the game. Mike Trout, no explanation there. He's Michael Nelson Trout, especially the fact that he got boosted back up to a 95. He's back to being Mike Trout. Alfonso Soriano, again, 5-tool player. Can play diamond defense anywhere in the outfield once you get him to parallel 3, I believe. And got that great speed. So, again, 5-tool player. Then the A tier, we got Delgado. Obviously, you can play left field. We got Ketel Marte, Mookie Betts, Albert Pujols, and Springer. Now, Ketel was part of my middle infielder's S tier, but remember, I said the reason why, or I see that middle infield suits him best. Why? Because he has high contact and low 80s power, especially once you get him up in the parallel PXP program. So as an outfielder, I'm looking more for a little bit more power than what he has, and also the speed's not the greatest. He's a primary center fielder. He has gold defense, but again, that speed's not the greatest. So that's why I feel like he's more suited as a middle infielder, and the hitting does not push him into the S tier category as an outfielder. George Springer, another card that he was added as a flawless reward, just misses out on the S tier. He's got the defense, got good speed, but the hitting attributes, contact-wise, if he had a little bit higher, if they all got over 100, he can crack that S tier. But unfortunately, he does not crack those, gets above 100 on everything. Now, obviously, when it comes to Pujols, the hitting is an S tier. I can give you the hitting, just the fielding doesn't add there. It's not, the hitting doesn't push you over the top to where he gets into that S tier like Nick Castellanos. For me, at least, I love his hitting. I've used Pujols a ton at the beginning of the year. He was my starting third baseman, and I loved him. I hit really well with him. I just think if he had higher contact versus lefties, only ends up at 94 now at P5. If he was up to, at least over 100, that can push him into S tier, but even then, I don't know. And then the Delgado, great hitting all around, good contact versus both, great power against righties. The only thing that he's lacking is the power against lefties, but he still holds his own against lefties. Not like he has terrible power, it's just not elite power. And again, him playing outfield though is very, very sketchy. He does have silver defense in left field, but the speed is under 50. That's super sketchy, and he has no arm. Then at B tier, we're going to have Brett Beatty, Jim Rice, Austin Martin again is here. Eddie Escobar, he can also play outfield. We got that top style Riley Green that just came out. Nelson Cruz, Larry Walker second half, David Justice, Gary Sheffield second half, Breakout Yelich, second half Edmonds, Live Series Judge, and then Future Stars Pete Crow Armstrong. C tier, we're going to have Yoelqui. Is it Yoelqui? I forgot. No. C tier, we're going to have Cespedes' younger brother. We're going to have Garrett Mitchell, Dante Bichette, Kirk Gibson, Josh Lowe, Reggie Jackson. We got All-Star Giancarlo Stanton. We got the new tops now, Jake Sawinski. George Valera, Future Stars. Austin Hendricks, Future Star. And Michael Harris, Future Stars card. And then the D tier, we got Vidal Brujan and Willie Mays. So that is my tier list for the outfielders. Again, I know some of y'all, or maybe a good percentage of you guys, are going to disagree with me on the Nick Castellanos being in the S tier. But again, that's bias. He's a staple in my lineup. Love his swing. Just an amazing hitter for me. And some of you guys might not disagree on other things, and that's fine. Again, we can have a discussion in the comment section. So we have finished all position players. Now we are jumping into pitchers, starting pitchers to be exact. So with that being said, S tier, Randy Johnson by himself. Nobody's close to him. I mean, we're almost at the end of June, and nobody's still even close to him. A tier, we got Bobby Miller, Bob Feller, and Roy Halladay. For me, this is a weak A tier because Bobby Miller does have that outlier. Has a nice pitch mix with that slower splitter, slider, and sinker combo. But the control is just very scary. Roy Halladay is the only one that I can consider A tier because his control is really good. Sinker cutter combo, nice splitter, and his control is really good and has good hit per nine. So he's one of the most. He's probably the pitcher that I'm second most confident in. And then we got Bob Feller. Bob Feller, haven't tried him yet, but he's kind of like a Bobby Miller, bad control, throws hard, outlier on his four-seamer, has a sinker as well, a slider like, a curveball as well like Bobby Miller. The difference that he doesn't have is a splitter. He has a changeup, and it's a big speed differential off the fastball. Again, a guy with not very good control, so it's going to be scary, but these would be the guys that are A tier. There's one guy that I'm looking at now and I missed, which was Live Series Corbin Burns. I would throw him in the A tier as well because of that sinker, outlier sinker cutter combo. And, he's got that slider circle change and curveball. He's still in my rotation. I totally forgot to put him in here. I'm sorry about that. I would also consider him into the A tier because he's in my rotation. Then we got B tier, Dallas Keuchel, Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, Matt Brash, Carlos Carrasco, Yuri Perez, Jarrett Weaver, Jacob deGrom's Life Series, and then Mike Mussina. Not a strong bunch. The strongest guy in my opinion here is Dallas Keuchel. Used him for a long time. He's probably coming out of my rotation. He's still in my rotation at the moment. He's probably going to come out of the rotation once I get Bob Feller in there. I'll give Bob Feller a try. But Keuchel got that elite control. I've never been a big fan of Tom Glavine. I know there's people that are a fan of him. I've never been a big fan of him, even last year. I don't know. Something about him just doesn't, and makes him very readable in my opinion. Greg Maddux. Only reason why he's not an A tier for me is because he doesn't throw hard enough. But he has the elite control, has a sinker cutter combo. If he just threw that sinker, like 92 to 94, we can make the argument to make him into the A tier and crack people's rotation. Problem is, sinker he doesn't throw hard enough in my opinion, but his control is elite. Brash has a nice pitch mix, slider, slur, four-seam, two-seam. I believe a changeup. It's just he doesn't have that outlier in the four-seamer to really blow by guys. Carrasco has that sinker, four-seam slider combo. Per nines aren't the greatest. I don't know. He just doesn't make that A tier. Yuri Perez, a lot of you guys may disagree with me that he should be in the A tier in my opinion. He's not Edward Cabrera 2.0. A lot of people thought he was going to be, but he's not. He's missing that fifth pitch. Wish they would have maybe gave him a slider or just something as a fifth pitch. Cutter would have been greatest, obviously. The cutter would have been the best fifth pitch possible, but I would have taken a slider as well. Those four pitches, he throws two speeds. He throws really hard sinker and fastball, and then he throws a really slow changeup and slurve. So it's going to be, the slurve was harder, like mid-80s, then we can make the argument he can get into that A tier, but it's slow. It's not tough to, it's a lot easier to pick up a slow slurve out the hand than it is a quick slurve, obviously. Jarrett Weaver, got good control, got the four-seam sinker combo. Throws them pretty hard, mid-90s. You can get him mid-90s. The problem is just everything else is super slow. So very readable, his off-speed pitches. Jacob deGrom just doesn't have outlier. If he had outlier on his Live Series card, he can probably be in the A tier, to be honest, but doesn't have that outlier. Then Mike Mussina, sinker cutter combo, but per nines are very low. Hit per nines very low, so doesn't make that A tier. C tier, we got Tom Seaver, Reed Detmers, J.R. Richard, Oral Hershiser, David Price, Shohei Ohtani's Life Series card. I think it's Blake Walton, Jackson Jobe, Tariq Skubal, and then Brian Bello. And then the D tier, guys that I would never want to use ever. Robbie Ray, Chrissy Mathewson. If there was an F tier or even below that, that's where he would belong. And then Clayton Kershaw. This Kershaw, just the hit per nine's too low. He throws a sinker fastball, but his slider is too. He usually has a sharp slider on his 99 overall. This does not have a sharp slider at all. It throws it like low 80s, so it's very readable. If he threw it a little bit harder, we could put it probably into C tier, but just not it. So yeah, again, recapping, Randy Johnson, not even close. Nobody's close to him being in the S tier, being along with him in the S tier. And A tier again, we got Bobby Miller, Roy Halladay, Bob Feller, and again, I forgot to put in Corbin Burns' picture in there, but Corbin Burns cracks my A tier. And then last but not least, relief pitchers. So last but not least, we got relief pitchers. No S tier, as you can see. I don't think there's an S tier relief pitcher. The closest one, in my opinion, closest two would probably be Yohan Duran and Josh Hader. You could even make the argument that Hader should be in there because he does have that 125 hit per nine. And Duran, only thing that's holding back Duran is that his hit per nine is not very high. So the PCI is still kind of big, but he is a difficult guy to hit, even with the PCI being pretty big against him. That outlier fastball with that outlier splitter is something new that we've never seen before. And then he has that slower cutter in the low 90s. That's very tough, on you when you got that 102 coming at you because they both look the same out the hand. And then that 12-6 curveball. It's not the pitch that you want to use a ton, but you can sneak it in there since it's thrown pretty hard. It's like in the mid 80s, and it can sneak up on you. So those two guys would be the guys that I could consider in the S tier, but they just, Duran's missing that hit per nine, and Hader's just missing, maybe a sinker. Then the rest of the A tier, we got Zach Britton, has very high hit per nine for a lefty. We got Cishek, Devin Williams, Goose Gossage, and Ottavino. That A tier is pretty much my whole entire bullpen, except for right now we went back to Chapman in our bullpen as another lefty, just because Aaron Loup got docked, but we'll talk about that. B tier, we're going to have Chapman, Eric Gagne's Takashi card, Takashi Hoffman, Rookie of the Year, Houston Street, All-Star Mo, postseason Lefty Grove. We got Live Series Aaron Loup and Live Series Brooks Raley, and then All-Star Kenley Jansen. So Raley just got upgraded to an 80 overall. He's got like 90-something hit per nine now. If he plays up like plus 10, he's very viable in the bullpen as a left-handed reliever. He has a sinker cutter combo when he throws 5 pitches, and not as weird of an arm slot as Aaron Loup, but a decent arm slot that's tough to pick up. So if Raley plays up into the hundreds, he's definitely very, very viable. Kenley Jansen makes B tier because he only throws sinker, cutter, slider. If he had a changeup, he could probably crank into the A tier. Same thing with Mo. I know this is an all-star card and he'll have a 99 that has a changeup, but doesn't have that changeup. And then Houston Street, he can possibly crack the A tier still, in my opinion. He throws a sinker cutter combo. If he had a 4-seamer as his 5th pitch to throw off that sinker, and make it look like a sinker, people can get under it, he could crack that A tier. Lefty Grove, I really loved him in the beginning of the year when he had that generic release. That crap was a pain in the ass to pick up, especially coming in at 100 miles an hour, and he had a sharp curveball and slider. But now he has his regular release, so, and low hit per 9. That's the one thing about lefties. He's lower on the hit per 9, especially right now. I think he only has like 89 off rip. Again, Mo, if he had a changeup. Gagne has high hit per 9, but the pitches just aren't overpowering. Hoffman, same thing, has high hit per 9, but pitches just aren't overpowering. The changeup's very easy to pick up. It loops out the hand. And then Chapman, you could probably put him into the A tier. Has high hit per 9, but I don't know. I keep him in the B tier. He actually gives him a lot of hits, a lot of runs. The control's really bad too. That's a problem. He doesn't have that outlier to make you think, I got to be very quick on the fastball. He throws it, he can get up to like 100, 101, but doesn't have the outlier on this card. But once his, higher overall comes out, then we can put him into the A tier, but not yet. He needs outlier to be into the A tier. C tier, we got Alvarado, Emmanuel Clase, David Price, Bruce Sutter, Clay Holmes, Michael King, Ryan Helsley, Nathan Eovaldi, John Franco, Brad Hand, and Andrew Miller. If Clase had a sinker, he'd be an A tier guy. Unfortunately, he throws cutter, slider, and four seam, and all of them come in very fast. Even if he had a changeup as well or a splitter, you could probably put him in. It'd probably move him all the way up to the A tier because you could throw that pitch slower that throws off the other pitches. It's just he throws everything hard. Alvarado has an outlier on his two-seamer. The two-seam outlier doesn't play as good as the four-seam outlier, in my opinion. And the rest of the guys, Clay Holmes has that outlier on the sinker, but he only throws sinker, four-seam, slider, curveball again. And the slider is not even like a pitch that comes in very hard. It's a mid-80s slider. We like those high, those high 80s, low 90s slider that break hard and look more like a fastball. If he had that, you could probably bump him into the B tier, but even without that changeup or splitter to throw off those hard pitches, it makes it kind of tough for him to be good. Ryan Helsley, this card kind of disappointed me. This guy's been throwing gas this year, and I thought he was going to get outlier, especially this awards card, but they bossed it on that one. They didn't give him that outlier, and he throws slider, changeup, curveball, I believe it is. And they actually he started off the year with a cutter on his Live Series card, and they changed it to a slider now. So if he had a cutter, it'd maybe make him a little bit better. But even then, he needs that outlier to be successful, in my opinion, because he doesn't throw a sinker or cutter. If he had outlier, he could definitely be jumping into that B tier and possibly A tier, but because he has very high hit per 9. It's just the four-seamer does not come in at 102. That's a problem. The rest of the guys, not really going to get too much into them. None of those guys were really on my mind to go into the B tier at all. And then D tier, we got Eckersley's All-Star card, Brian Wilson, and Billy Wagner, Tom Henke. Maybe I'm a little bit too harsh on Wilson. I just, he throws a four-seam cutter, slider, changeup, just doesn't wow me by any means. But, I just don't personally think that Brian Wilson is very good. You could probably put him into the C tier. You might disagree with him being D tier, but the rest of the guys for sure, I would not think about putting him in rotation at this point of the year. So, yeah. But anyways, that's my tier list of every player, or every important player at each position that I... anyways, that is my tier list for every position that there is, and... No. Anyways, that's my tier list for every important player at each position. If there's a guy that I may have missed on that you thought was important and should have been in the one of the tiers, you let me know in the comment section. I think I hit everybody that should be on this tier list at this point of the year. Again, obviously there's a lot more first basemen, middle infielders, so on and so forth. But I picked the guys that are most important to that position, in my opinion. So again, in the comment section, let me know if I missed out on any guys, okay? All right, so that was my tier list of the current players in Diamond Dynasty right now. As the year goes on, we'll be updating that tier list. But let me know in the comment section if you agree with my tier list, and let me know if you like this video, if you enjoyed what I did with this, doing a tier list. Obviously, it's a little bit different than what I usually do. I do a ton of gameplays. We added a pack opening this past weekend. It's done pretty well with the views and whatnot, so let me know if you like this tier list, okay? And always, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you do. Turn those notifications on. Leave a like on the video for me in the comment section. Again, let me know if you like the tier list, if you agreed with it or not, and if you want to see it again later on in the future when other cards are out, okay? Lastly, make sure you follow me on Twitch, Twitter, and TikTok. All three links will be in the description below, so give me a follow on their platforms. I would highly appreciate if you did. And also make sure you go check out my short channel on YouTube, pitching_rebel shorts. Go check it out. Hit the subscribe button. It is completely free, okay? Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Love y'all. Peace.